What is a woman?
Well-
Can you tell me what a woman is?
No, I can't.
Only in 2022 would I have to make a video like this. It's borderline satire. It is completely ludicrous. Before I get into the meat of what I want to talk about, the more serious stuff, I just wanted to kind of define what the problem is with one of the biggest issues with this question, what is a woman? You ask this to some people and they will use the word woman inside of the very definition. They'll say something like, you'll say, what is a woman? They'll go, well, a woman is anyone who feels like a woman. A woman is anyone who defines woman in their own way.
Womanhood is something that is an umbrella term. It includes people
That describes what?
people who identify as a woman.
Identify as what?
As a woman.
What is that?
Was to each their own.
And this is called circular definition. You can't use it. It's like someone saying, asking, what is a cellular telephone? And then you go, it is a phone that is cellular. Okay, that doesn't define the word. You have to actually define the word. And no extreme leftist can define woman, because as soon as they define it, their entire ideology goes out the window. That is why this phrase has somewhat become an icon of reason and logic, because it's so simple and yet it completely destroys their entire ideology, their narrative. And we can make fun of these people, and I do, and it is a lot of fun, but it actually becomes far more sinister and far more serious, which is actually what I want to talk about here. When the definition of a word or concept means everything and nothing, then that concept becomes meaningless. Let us use the word chair as an example. We all know that when using the word chair, we mean an object designed to be sat on, usually with some sort of back support attached to it. Now, what if someone pointed at a pair of shoes and asked what those were, and you said, those are chairs? Then they pointed at a coffee machine, and you reply, that is also a chair. Then they ask what you're cooking for supper, and you say, we are having a juicy, medium rare chair for supper. If this was the case, chair becomes a meaningless word. The definition is everything, which makes it effectively mean nothing. Language is meant to communicate concepts about the real world to other humans. We use it to describe the world around us and the reality of ourselves, our feelings, experiences, etc. In order to communicate effectively, we must have words that hold meaning, accurately and efficiently. In 2022, the word woman has become a meaningless word. It means everything, and therefore it means nothing. This makes our entire society unstable, with far-reaching consequences. For all of human history, the question, what is a woman, was an easy-to-answer question. A woman is a female human. She has the ability to birth babies, to produce milk and feed them, to menstruate and grow eggs. She has an XX chromosome. Her DNA tells us she is female. Her bone structure is unique. Her frame is smaller, features softer. She has 20 times less testosterone than males, which makes her uniquely gifted for carrying children. The vast majority of the time, one can tell a woman is a woman just by looking at her. It's innate, it's natural. For those who would then say, oh, so a woman without a uterus isn't a woman? These people can basically be disregarded as they are not serious people. For a woman without a uterus still has a pelvic structure to hold one. She still has XX chromosomes. She still has hormones and the bodily makeup of a female human being. The fact is, the only reason we have trouble as a culture defining this today is because of politics and extremists. In Rules for Radicals, a book written by a far-left activist named Saul Alinsky, he provides a few tactics we see being used today. One of those is ever-changing language, never to be held down by a simple definition. Constantly change and adapt, especially when there is no solution or no answer. This is the tactic done today in basically every authoritative institution of the West, taught to our youth in universities and colleges. There are many other tactics, and they all work together to create instability. One way to destabilize a country in order to destroy it and create your own utopia is to eliminate the family unit, tear apart mothers and fathers, daughters and sons. Make sure the culture is so divided that not even a family unit can stay strong and united together.
Kid is yours and totally your responsibility. We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
Karl Marx, the founder of communism, that political system that led to over 150 million deaths in 1 century, the system that is now very popular in mainstream culture and universities, he was a fan of this idea. One can do this by causing gender wars and eliminating definitions that humans innately know. You then can radicalize people into far left doctrines and take over the culture slowly. You take away their ability to recognize reality. Once a culture is changing, the laws, politics, corporations, values, perceptions of reality change with it. So, you may be a civilized, nice person who just wants to go along to get along. Who cares if someone wants to be called she or he? Who cares if a man wants to put on a dress or a woman wants to cut her tits off? They are individuals, and as long as they leave me alone, I will leave them alone. The problem is, this is not what happens. Give an inch and they will take a mile. Leave them alone and eventually they will tear down the door to your home and force you to adhere to their demands or else. 10 years ago, the idea of trans in mainstream culture was laughable, and now we have children transitioning and child porn being promoted in our schools.
Both of these books include pedophilia, sex between men and boys. A 4th grade boy performing oral sex on an adult male. The other book has detailed illustrations of a man having sex with a boy. These books are in stock and available in the libraries of Robinson,
for high school
Langley.
students.
We have people that fight for the right that a teacher can privately teach a 5-year-old about explicit sexual concepts, alone, without parents knowing. We have school districts where a young girl is raped in the girls' locker room by a boy who claimed to be a girl. Then the school board protects the boy who raped the girl and gets her father arrested when he gets a little bit angry. Then the President of the United States sent his Justice Department to investigate these parents who are now labeled domestic terrorists. This is happening in the real world in mainstream culture. Suddenly, this "what is a woman" sentence becomes a lot more important. It has real world consequences when you change the reality around you. This tiny, stupid little sentence tears down everything these far-left extremists believe. Biden says we must have a black woman Supreme Court justice. What does that mean? She is asked to define woman and cannot.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No,
Yeah.
I can't.
But didn't Biden define it? Wasn't his criteria for choosing her based on her being a her? If woman means anyone, then it wouldn't matter that she is a she, because she isn't a she, because being a she is also being a he, because the word she and woman mean absolutely nothing. So we now arrive at the conclusion that what is a woman, the phrase, the idea, the concept, the question, it cuts right into the heart of their insanity, so that hopefully the culture can wake up to the rot that is growing. These little battles of pronouns are not about gender, they are about winning a much larger culture war. You must stand up to thugs and bullies, and this is what these people are. You must stand up for your family and your community. Womanhood is not a costume one can adorn whenever they feel like it. A woman is not to be devalued to the point that men can simply take their place and dominate their spaces. The word woman is important. Reality is important. Truth is important. If you have made it this far, you likely agree with what I have shown, and you may be asking, what can I do? This is also disgusting and terrible. The good news is yes, there is things we can do to shift the tide. The first and most important one is to stand up and speak for truth.
You are all child abusers. You prey upon impressionable children and indoctrinate them into your insane ideological cult, a cult which holds many fanatical views, but none so deranged as the idea that boys are girls and girls are boys. By imposing this vile nonsense on students to the point even of forcing young girls to share locker rooms with boys, you deprive these kids of safety and privacy and something more fundamental too, which is truth.
You cannot let extremists dictate the language and battlefield. We have been doing this in an effort to be civil, and that is not working. You may value being nice and kind, but is it nice or kind to allow little girls to be sexually assaulted? Is it nice or kind to have little children brainwashed into making permanent, extreme decisions that cannot be reversed? If you ask this person here if they wish someone would have stood up and been a little rude and aggressive to save them, do you think that they would have said no? Sometimes kindness is defending those who need it. The second thing is raising your kids well. Teach them values, responsibility, and meaning. Teach them truth is real. And finally, even within fighting this culture war, do it out of love. Love for those who you are protecting, and love even for those who you are fighting. Love isn't devoid of anger or aggression. It requires these things in moments that are called for. I will end this by quoting Jesus. For whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a great millstone fastened around his neck and to be drowned in the depth of the sea.